morning. We'll get started here in about 1 minute. We've got one more speaker that we're double checking will or will not be here. Welcome to Indie Talks, part of the 17th annual Indie Memphis Film Festival. Conversations are once again free and open to the public thanks to the support of the Hohenberg Foundation. Thanks for Fuel Film for helping lead the panelists. None of this would be possible without the generous support of Duncan Williams. Please put your phone on vibrate. Everybody else says turn your phone off. We just want you to put it on vibrate because we would love for you to tweet what's going on, what's being said, what's happening, and the hashtag is Indie Memphis. So please share the good word because these folks are very talented and the world needs to know. This morning we have a distinguished panel. Let's see, in no order, so please humor me. Laura Jean Hocking is a Memphian. She does a little bit of everything. She's a writer, director, producer, and editor. She's known for Eat and also the documentary here in Memphis of the Antenna Club. She's also works on music videos and experimental shorts. She has a wide variety of interests. Laura Jean Hocking. DeAara Lewis is a Memphian. She's a filmmaker. She's a writer, director, and producer known for Forgotten Days, The Forgotten Ones, Tricks, and her current project is Witch Bitch. Melissa Anderson Sweazy is from Memphis. Sweezy? She is a writer, director, producer. She is known for her film John's Farm, and she's currently working on the Department of Signs and Magical Interventions. And Rachel M. Taylor is a Memphian. She's a writer, director. She is the creator of the award-winning film Avarice, and her interest is sci-fi and fantasy film. And with that, we'll turn it over to our distinguished panel.
Is somebody moderating? Are we self-moderating?
I guess you're self-moderating.
Oh, okay. I usually moderate this, so maybe I'll just sort of slip into that. And take a nap while y'all talk.
All right, there we go.
So usually what I do when I moderate this, which I'm now doing it, we talk about how we got started making movies. Do you want to do that?
Sure.
We should have discussed this
Great
before.
Sorry, yeah.
Do you want me to start?
Sure.
Yes. Okay. All right. I started making movies in 2000, and I worked craft services and did props and worked on 2 feature films, and then my husband and I wrote a movie that I produced and also did craft services and props. And I was watching the editor working on the movie, and I was watching him, and I was like, oh my God, that's what I need to be doing. I don't know what I've been doing this whole time. And so our next movie we wrote and we made and everything, and then I learned how to edit, and I edited a feature film. It was the first thing I ever edited, and I had 52 speaking parts. And it's been downhill ever since. Next.
Okay, sorry. My name is DeAara Lewis. I have been making films, well, I don't want to give my age, but I've been making films for a very long time. And I got into this because I am an actress first. I've been acting since I was 5 years old, went pro as a teenager. And I read an article that changed my life in People magazine called Hollywood Blackout. And it was about the dismal reality of African Americans in filmmaking. And so I decided, and I've always written stories as well, and I said, well, why don't I learn how to make the kind of movies that I want to be in? And that kind of just, you know, altered my entire course of life. And I did a short. My first was, I left college, hit the ground running, did The Forgotten Ones. A couple of years later, did Tricks, and spent more than enough time on their project learning how to edit, learning websites, learning just a lot of things, and I finally like released it maybe a year ago, which I encourage anybody else not to do. So, and I'm really very passionate about the whole new media thing now, because you can command a worldwide audience and you can really go around the studio, and I no longer see them as, you know, the bad guys, but they can definitely be a hindrance to where you're trying to go. So that's my story.
Well, I started making films in 2010. It was something I always wanted to do since I was a kid, but like I would watch like Apollo 13 or, you know, Twister, and I kept thinking, oh, I want to be an astronaut, or I want to be, you know, a storm chaser. But then I realized that, you know, after this, I really just loved the glory of cinema, and so you know, early on, I knew I wanted to do it, but everybody tells you that you shouldn't. So I listened, and I started majoring in English, actually. And so it wasn't until about 2010 that I was like, you know, this is what I want to do, and I'm just going to go for it. And so I put my entire life savings into my first film and called it Film School, which was Avarice. Yeah, and it was a lot of really good lessons and a lot of great mistakes. And so I'm really grateful that I was able to do that on my dime. So and it turned out really well. So proud of it.
Well, I think similar to these ladies here. I mean, I wanted to make movies since I was my daughter's age, but I was primarily a writer. And I think I moved to Los Angeles in the late 90s, and it was when they were throwing money at writers, especially TV writers. And so I kind of became a writer in a period where it was a very skewed look at what it was to be a writer in Hollywood. And filmmaking was it's still very, very expensive, but it was incredibly expensive, and there wasn't a way to get cheap equipment and things in your hands. So I just thought, well, I'm just a writer, that's all I am. And moving back here it was culture shock, and it certainly felt at the time like, well, that's it. I failed. I didn't make any movies when I was out there, and that became the biggest surprise to me, that it is so possible and beyond to be a filmmaker here, and that's been the beautiful happy accident of being a filmmaker in Memphis, is that there's amazing crew, there's a huge support system, and I finally made my first movie, gosh, I think in 2013, 2012, very, very recently, but I'm not stopping now.
So, Rachel, I think it's funny that people told you couldn't make movies, but they told you it was okay to be an English major.
I know. Isn't that ridiculous?
You can't get a job with that. What are you talking about?
That was my parents. They're like, yeah, do English.
You can just be a teacher. It's okay. So I think one of the things about being a Memphis filmmaker that people, and I'm going to bring this up a couple times over the weekend in many conversations, is there's a freedom in Memphis that you don't have in LA or New York specifically, because in Memphis there are no studios telling you what they need or what they want or what you can't do. You don't have tax incentives like telling you what you can do, and you don't make movies with anything but your own money. So what you do have is artistic freedom. And there's a lot of people in the world who don't have artistic freedom. They get thrown in jail for trying to have artistic freedom. So I think that's something that that I'm always grateful for in Memphis, is that Memphis lets you like just go ahead and be a weirdo. You know, you can just like do whatever you want to do, because it's just, it's always been like that too. I think Memphis, like music-wise, definitely, it's always been music here that people can't really define, and it sort of musicians create their own reality, and filmmakers are creating their own reality here too. Like, I mean, like Craig Brewer, here's like this dumpy white kid making movies about rappers. Like, what? Like getting like Oscars and stuff. Like, what's going on? And he sort of created that reality, and we are doing that ourselves. So this is something I bring up every year too, is why do we in this day and age have to have a panel that is women in film? Why isn't it just a bunch of women talking about sci-fi movies, or women talking about writing or whatever? So that is a pretty, I don't know, it's a sad thing, but I think that people need to know that there are women making movies because Memphis has been a boys' club for a really long time, and for a long time, it seems like I was the only one at Indie Memphis. It'd be like, oh, here's all the guys and me. So I personally have never had any. I've never had any issues with there being any kind of sexism at all. Like, there's never been anybody who's told me, you know, oh, well, you're a woman, so you don't get to do this. Have y'all ever had anything like that in your Memphis filmmaking experience?
No, I mean, I think that the guys in Memphis are all pretty, like, they accept anybody. I mean, I just feel like one of the boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It seems like
I don't know if that's a good thing.
It's such a small community that there's not any room to be shutting out anybody because of what sex they are or whatever.
Have content.
And that's like a pretty refreshing thing too, because I've met women from LA and stuff like they encounter. Hello.
Miss Mechelle, come on in.
Oh, hello.
I'm a little bit sorry.
Michelle, would you please introduce yourself? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mechelle Wilson. I'm a film writer here in Memphis with the movie that's going to be actually screened on here at Hattie at 1:30. It's called Just a Measure of Faith.
So we started this out by talking about how we got into making movies. You want to tell us how you got here?
Well, basically, I got involved years ago with just plays. I knew I loved the theater. I did that in high school, so I was like, okay, I love the theater. So I got into just doing plays and things like that. And then I started writing shorts, and I was like, okay, that's another area I really enjoy. And I saw that a lot of what I was doing on stage could not, I couldn't explore another area on the stage like that. So I knew that had to be something else that I need to go into. And so movies, you can go wide open with things. You can just go wild. And that's what kind of made me understand, you may need to go to the movie, do movies, because that allows you to even explore more. And I still love plays, because I love stage.
How long have you been making movies?
Actually, starting with the movies, basically, this is actually my first actual production.
Oh, cool. And so your first thing was a feature film?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Jump right in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a lot of them written. I'm like, okay, I'm just waiting on opportunity, but to put them out there. But yes, this is the first major thing that I have done as far as the films. I did a few little things that you can put out there, YouTube-wise and all that stuff, but nothing like this.
So right when you walked in, we were talking about how every year at this panel I bring up, like, why is it that we have to have a panel that's called Women in Film? It's 2014. It's not like women just sort of came around yesterday. So we were talking about whether if you as a filmmaker or artist in Memphis have ever encountered any sexism. Like if you were ever shut out of it, like, it's a woman, so she can't be doing this. Have you ever encountered anything like that?
Well, I mean, I was, even more making this film, I did encounter that. Because basically, that's my husband, I'm sorry. Come on in, Marlon, sit down. He had surgery on his ACL. So basically, a lot of times when we deal with people that who we contract out to do things for the film, I have to let him talk. They kind of, I don't even want to say that they just shut me down. They try to shut me down, and it was like on one of the sets, I was trying to tell them to do this, do that, and I was like, I'm talking here. That's sad.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I am invisible.
Wow.
So I had, sometimes I'll say, okay, you're going to have to handle this crowd. And that shouldn't have to happen.
No.
We should never, and so, and that I'm going to say, that can sometimes happen, period, with a lot of things you do, calling, trying to get views about certain things. So, well, Marlon, you go ahead and call them. Because I don't want to encounter that.
I like to encounter it, actually. Like, come up
like
here.
you,
Yeah.
like looking for
come
it.
on,
Yeah,
try
bring it on.
to. Yeah.
Well, Mechelle, she brought up a good point. I've never, if I have had that experience, I wasn't aware of it here in the city. I have had it contracting out. And when I would reach out to people, and it would be kind of dismissive. And like I said, I know when I went to LA to the Hollywood Black Film Festival, it was a boys club. It really was. And even when we went beyond that and we would talk to people, you know, it's like, oh, what do you do? Are you an actress?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but I also do, you know, I'm also a filmmaker. Oh, yeah, I have a film in the film. Oh, you know, and it's like a shift, but it wasn't everybody. So I have encountered it beyond Memphis, but I kind of, you know, feel how you feel. It's too small here to really, that can't be afforded. Luckily on a set of Tricks, even on Forgotten Ones, it was a very supportive set. And my main producer and I, we actually did good cop, bad cop. I couldn't afford for people to hate me because I needed to get the best performances out.
Yeah.
So I kind of put her up to the, you know, dirty work.
Yeah.
You know.
I think when I started mostly producing before I actually was making movies on my own, and so I learned to be I make the trains run on time. Like no, okay, let's do this. You know, like because directors specifically sometimes can get a little bigger than the movie can be, and you gotta dial them back. No, we cannot have the spaceship landing here. The aliens can't come. You know, like let's make it real. And I totally forgot where I was gonna go.
I think women come from the heart more. I think it's more of an emotional. Well, let me speak for myself, and that's, you know, the late Rob Pitts. That's what he told. That's what he noticed about my style. It was like I'm much more emotional, and most women I've seen, it's like even if it's action, and I definitely don't want to put a stereotype on anything, but I think maybe because of how culture is and how this society is, we're more connected to our feelings, and so that pretty much comes out. You know, the characters, I won't necessarily say they're more layered, but they're actually much more in touch, and we take time to explore, you know, the motivations and show it too. It's not, you know, someone dies and it's not just a crying on the inside kind of thing. At least that's the way I like to get it out, you know, like to show it and things. So I think it's much more of an emotional aspect, you know, my perspective.
I don't know if I can speak to that. I mean, I think unfortunately because there aren't a plethora of female filmmakers growing up watching movies, I don't have a ton of movies that I look at that were directed by women that I was hugely influenced by. I'd say that if I had to count who I'd say my favorite filmmakers are, they're probably mostly men because they just have more in the canon. And so the movies that I've made, I can go back and look and I can see who was influencing me in those moments. And if I'm honest, it's probably a male filmmaker. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if just by being a woman and being a writer-director, obviously the stories are very personal. But I wouldn't look at my film and think it would be any different from a fellow male director's story just because of gender. I personally can't really speak to that. I don't know if anybody else can.
I don't necessarily think there is a huge difference. I mean, I guess I think it would be a personal difference. You know, like, I mean, I think some men are very emotional and very in touch with, you know, I guess their feminine side, and you know, I mean, vice versa. You know, like Catherine Bigelow. You know, those are movies I probably would never even think to direct. But you know, I mean, I think it is individual, and I think that if there is a gap, I think that it's starting to close. But again, you know, most of the films that I have seen, you know, written and directed by women are usually. I mean, I don't see a lot of sci-fi fantasy from women, and so I mean, I think that. You know, to agree with Melissa, all of my influences have been men as well, and so yeah, that's about all I was going to say about that.
I think as a writer myself, I always try to make sure that the women in my movies are not there because there's also a man in the movie. Mm-hmm. You know, that they exist all by themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's really, I think is very important to do, to present, especially at this level of filmmaking to show other women, younger women, that it's not about being, you know, the blonde in the room or whatever. You don't have to be saved in every movie. You know, you can be the person saving or whatever. And, you know, you really have to. And the thing I was going to go to earlier, which I forgot and now remember, is why is it such a boys' club? I mean, are young women going, you know, I don't want to be an editor. Why would I want to be in this room all by myself? Like, I could just go be an actress. Like, why is it that there are so few female directors? I mean, is it not something like, it seems like there should be more at this point in time, because there is it's so accessible to make movies. Like, you can make a movie with your iPhone. You know, you don't need like a camera or a studio or anything. You can do it. So why aren't little girls going, I want to be a director when I grow up? Like, why is that not happening?
There are plenty of women saying that. There's two very, very uncomfortable theories that I've been thinking about lately. There was one, you may have seen this on Twitter, I think it was last week. It was an anonymous agent who was quoted saying, why give money to the women? Because the women don't make money. And he was saying that I think it was a producer who said he was blaming the agent, saying, well, the agent said this, so I was doing my duty to kind of spread that quote and get the conversation started. But he was just saying, well, the agent makes money off of their clients. And if we're going to go back to if women are getting paid as much as men, well, why would I bank on a female director if I can get my 15% or my 10% off of a male client? Then you have a polar opposite theory that you have a lot of women in Hollywood who do the hiring. And this, I feel so icky even getting ready to go into this category. So it's that particular theory is that because you have women who have reached a very, very high power, like high ranking in Hollywood, they don't want to compete with more women.
Makes sense.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that.
So they're the ones making the hiring decisions.
It's
so
the
they
Mean
want
Girls.
It was the Mean Girls Club. They want to be the queen bee and hiring men and not having eligible women going up.
Taking the spotlight off of them. And they like that isolation. They like that actual trophy. Figure, you know, type of thing. And I feel exactly the way and also to answer your question too, I feel that a lot of women think that they can't do that. I just truly think that I'm a business owner. I worked as general manager in Houston, and I like being in control. So I didn't think to surrender to anything. So I'm okay with being out front. I'm okay with telling people what to do.
Yeah.
I'm too bossy to be behind. So, but it's not enough women who want to do that. They like being the Indians with the chief.
Most women I know, they want to get, they say they want to write. And I've even asked, well, have you ever thought about producing or making your own, just even starting off as a short? Even in the film program, I was like one of 3 women in the entire program. And I don't think it's a thought of a thought. You know, it's just like the natural thing I'll go to, and I guess that's just how the conditioning. You know, the natural thing I go to is a writer, and I'll bring in, you know, somebody else because I think it's this kind of superior thing. That's how it's seen, you know. And it's really amazing when I see women who tell me that they want to. I just went to this young woman's thing. It was really cool to see. She didn't direct it, but she wrote and produced it, A Circle of a Coven. And it was just really good to see just another young woman in it, you know, they're just getting in it, because most of the time that's what they say. I want to be a writer, which is fine. I'm a writer, but, you know, you can do more. You can control your own destiny. You know, you don't have to wait for somebody to say, go. You know.
And also, if you're writing, then you know in your head what you want it to look like, so why don't you just make the thing that's in your head?
Right.
You know, I mean, it's not hard. I mean, it is hard. It is hard to make movies. Don't even think that it's not hard. What am I thinking? So, I was going to say something else. I keep forgetting. Okay, yeah, so, what? Yeah, questions, good.
Piggyback off of what DeAara was saying, do you feel like within the whole filmmaking bubble, that, because you're saying a lot of women just say they want to be writers, but they don't want to get hands-on and into it. Do you feel like there have been within the industry like ascribed gender roles, essentially, in what women are allowed or not allowed, or encouraged or not encouraged to do? Like, because you were saying that, you know, going to film festivals, people are like, oh, are you an actress, without even the assumption that you're a creator.
Right.
So like what has been your experience with that and encountering like just those assumptions?
Well, for me personally, going back to what I was saying, when I have met people who heard of my films, like, oh yeah, I want to do that, and I think, oh cool, you know, you want to be a director, you want to produce, and no, I want to write, and I think exactly what you just hit on. It's like it's a conditioning. It's like these are the roles. I really
Yes.
got to do it. Yeah. These are the roles. This is what I'm supposed to do. I don't think it even occurs to a lot of women that they can bust out of that bubble. Like, you know, they don't have to do this. You know, they can do this and go beyond it. And, you know, I don't necessarily know what the answer. I guess it's been a lot of, mostly on TV. TV has been kicking film's ass, you know. Yeah. So I think a lot of things are coming out, you know. My personal hero, Shonda Rhimes, you know, who's really just been, you know, breaking that glass ceiling. So I really hope that the message is getting out to women. You know, that's my personal perspective.
Well, I mean, I think obviously the thing that we can do to make young women want to make movies is to make movies.
Let them see it.
You know,
right.
Definitely. And there has been, like, and I've always heard this story that in Hollywood, originally in Hollywood, there would be these big directors like King Vidor would be making movies, and they would make the movie, and then they would like hand off the movie to the editors, who were all women, and because they thought that editing was like sewing. You know, like, here, you put it together, I'm gonna go lion hunting, and I'll come back and we'll have the premiere. So for a long time it was just women editing, and then apparently the men were like, wait a minute, why are we giving all the power to these women? What? So then they started editing, and but I still think there's a lot of female editors. I mean, it is like sewing. You sit in your room and you put it together.
A lot of
it was sound that caused that.
It was what?
It was the introduction of sound, and like it became this like technical thing. So then, therefore, like a man has to do this because it's a technical job.
Yeah.
But ironically, now a lot of directors prefer female editors. There's actually a documentary about all this called The Cutting Edge, where like Tarantino and Spielberg and all these guys want female editors because they view a woman as being more nurturing and more like willing to work with you, and not like they're like more nurturing to the film itself as opposed to I'm out for my thing.
Yeah, and Thelma Schoonmaker, who is my personal hero, she's like 80 years old. She's been Martin Scorsese's editor since they made Woodstock, and she edited. What's the name of the movie? Wolf of Wall Street. So here's this 80-year-old woman editing this movie that has more profanity in it than any
She edited
movie.
the infamous cocaine scene.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah, and apparently it was like the movie was like originally like 4 hours long, and they showed a 4-hour cut of it, and everybody loved it. Like, that's some skill there. Like to show a 4-hour movie to people, and they're like, all right, that's great.
Oh wow.
Please discuss how to get more females involved in filmmaking and all elements of filmmaking. How do we get our sisters involved?
Well, I mean, what about, so like, I know, actually Stephen is teaching at a boys' school, right?
Yeah, I teach MUS, but like I want to move that program to like Hutchinson.
Exactly, like that's kind of a thought of mine, like Hutchinson, you know, girls' schools, they don't ever have like film programs and such. Yeah, well, they might, but I don't think they do around here. And that was something that I remember, like, even in my high school, is that girls were never in the film program. I think I was the only one, unless there were a couple that wanted just to watch movies for the whole class. But, you know, maybe starting out, you know, early on and teaching that, you know, I think some girls kind of shy away from, like, the technical aspects of filmmaking, too. I know that was something that scared me a lot, getting into it, just because I'm not a technically minded person. I'm a storyteller. That's kind of my forte. And I think, you know, maybe finding, you know, telling girls, obviously, if you can learn the technical aspect, or, you know, you can find other ways of, you know, just using what you need to as a tool for storytelling. And I think that kind of encouraging that at a young age might be something.
Being a geek is cool.
Yeah, it is.
It is very practical.
Has started a program, I think Hutchinson
Oh,
started.
really? That's good.
Yeah, because my friend, her daughter, matter of fact, she got a scholarship to go to New York to pursue even more because they had some kind of contest, and she wrote a short, and she was able to win. But I think they started that a couple of years ago, and so that's a good thing because when I was doing some things and I was doing plays and stuff, she was like, okay, let me help you. And then from there, she saw that, hey, this is fun and not something to be afraid of. And she was able to get into a lot and feel real comfortable. So she's actually in New York now doing at one of the actual schools there. So I think it will open more, and I think that's an awesome idea. And I think we need to have more workshops out there, women in film workshops that would help women see the ones who's out there. Because like when I did my premiere, I had 1,500 people show up for the premiere, but oh wow, a little bit behind. I was like, okay, no one's gonna show. Who am I anyway? So,
where did you have your premiere that you had that many people?
I actually had it at I don't know if y'all heard of this big church called World Overcomers.
Yeah.
Okay. I had it there.
Wow.
I was like, okay, I don't know how I'm gonna fill this big place, and I didn't fill it, but it looked full.
What? 1,500 ain't nothing to sneeze at.
I felt like a Hollywood queen that day. But they all showed, and they were like, oh, gangbusting, and I was able to sell some of my DVDs. So I'm like, go out and let them order some DVDs. Okay, and so I did, and I was like, wow, these people love me. And women came up to me. I said all that to say this. They came up to me and said, you baby look easy. I said, really? Okay, but I said, it is. Even though I know it's a lot of work you have to put into it.
It's the art of illusion.
But the easy part of it is the dedication. If you're willing to do the work, then it becomes easy, it becomes fun, and it becomes a part of you. So I think if we have more workshops to let them know that it's not something that not a script that you pick up and you get on stage and you act it out and you walk away and you put the script down once you learn it. It's not that. You have to carry that thing like a baby through. And then they see that, then it becomes easy and they'll try it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just modeling the behavior you want to see repeated.
Exactly.
And I have a daughter, and I brought her here today because that's important to me. Because when I was her age, I was making movies. You know, I had my dad's video camera, but somewhere along the way, I got scared, and I listened to too much of the no's, and I fell. And I don't want to say it's a trap, but I fell into the I'll just be a writer. And so it's been such a personal victory for me to step back into the director shoes, the kid that I was at 8, who she's becoming. And I think there's been that challenge of, because she's, you know, like kids her age, they see a movie and they're like, well, I want to make Star Wars. And then I'm like, well, great, well, let's get your phone and let's do stop. And she's, well, no, I want the special effects. And I'm like, let's let's just start small. And I've actually been teaching a class at her kid's school on Fridays. It's boys and girls, because I feel like not just a workshop for women, but I'm thrilled that around the country there are now kids' film festivals. Because how empowering is that to see that not only you can be in your living room with your mom's phone or an iPad and make a movie, but you could show your movie at a film festival like your parent. And so if they're 8 years old or 10 years old and already getting this exposure, I think it's that much easier to make the leap that there isn't a hurdle you have to cross. It's just tools you were given as a kid, so it's just a no-brainer. You let it in, it's nurtured, and then you go into college and start making movies.
I do agree with you making it a boy and girl workshop, not just like girls, because I think that if you separated it like that at a young age, I think girls probably get in their head that this is a separation, and so I think that putting them all together and saying you all go for it.
And that's a good point you're making on that, because we don't want to add to the isolation, and that will, I guess, with the drive to get out there and let people know, hey, we are here. We could isolate ourselves. And so that was a good observation. I like that. So, yeah, we need workshops, but yeah, we do need to be open. But we do need to focus, even in those workshops. Be careful not to allow the girls or women to sit back. Call on them, push them. Because I guess because I know I'm older than everyone on this panel. I don't mind saying I'm 54 years old. So, a lot of my things I should have done early on. I should have done that. But there was so many no's, so many, who are you? And how do you think you can write anything? Or family-wise as well as outside. Oh, okay, you have another play, oh, good. But, and so there was no one there to support a woman or a person. And just like with your daughter, she's gonna get a lot of open door stuff. Because trailblazers have actually allowed her to be able to get some more yeses. So yeah, we do need to continue. We need to continue to push hard. And we need to rally with each other to push even more. But I feel that with the actual workshops, I would say to it, and with our writing, we need to show a woman in another light. And I'm still dealing with that.
I think also a thing that I always talk, I like is the making of the movie is more fun than actually showing the movie. I love getting spreadsheets going, and I love editing. I mean, I would rather spend 100 hours a week editing than 20 minutes doing anything else. I mean, I love the path. Yeah, I love the path. I mean, like the making, when you have a movie, when you have a finished movie, to me, that is the culmination of a journey. You've got like all these experiences have happened. Like I just worked with Mechelle Sweazy on a short, and it was this great process that we had. Like we just had this like brain meld, you know? I mean, it's like, and I didn't know her at all before we started working on it, and now it's like I know how she thinks. Like I can finish her sentences, and they like making the movies is so much fun. And when they're done, I'm just like, we're done? Oh, now what? Now I want to make another movie. You know, it's yeah. I mean, it's the actual process of like the cutting and pasting and like, you know, everything is what you have to show is fun, not just being at a premiere and being, you know, talking to people about I made this movie. Like actually doing it is, you know.
Well, I had a question for the women on the panel.
Yes.
To young women who are coming up or who are aspiring, is there anything that any of you, myself included, have done that you, if you could do it again, what would you do differently starting out? You know.
I would have started earlier. I mean, I waited until I was like 25. I was too scared. Like I would have probably around 18. I probably would have started, you know, just making my movies and being fearless. I think that I allowed fear to get in my way. So that's what I would do.
Yeah, it's like that specter of perfection, that things have to be perfect before you can start, or you have to have this amount of money, or you have to. And I think sometimes the blessing of not having enough money is that your passion trumps the perfect conditions, and you just go and you start working with what you have, and you make it, and you make do, and I think you just sharpen skills that you didn't know you had. And I just like with Rachel, I wish I'd started a lot sooner.
Can I ask a question about, sorry, just a perfection?
We're gonna open the floor. Please go ahead.
I actually read a recent article, and it was talking about perfectionism and gender, and one of the studies that they had analyzed was a screenwriting competition. It might have been the Nickel, which was like a huge one, it gets a lot of entries, and there was a huge gap in men that were submitting unfinished work, you know, just ideas, things like that, where women they had a small number of entries, and women would not submit things unless they were kind of perfect, completely done. And so that's something that I personally struggle with. So I don't know if you know, speak to that, how you kind of overcome that, the perfect, and maybe why does that seem to, does it apply to women more than men? Is it maybe that fear, you know, I don't know.
Well, I personally have, honestly, I put up a little note in my living room recently, and it has made the biggest difference in my life, saying it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
I just have to start. And my first project, it took me 2 years to finish, and when I would read the competition guidelines that you can submit and just, you can check the box if it's not finished yet and all that, I couldn't imagine not, sending something in half done. I don't know if that's a gender thing or more, if it's more of an artistic thing, I don't know. I just know for myself, I am a perfectionist, and I know the dark side of that, because it's like if things don't line up, symmetrically, it doesn't get done. And so, like I said, me putting up that sign has made the biggest difference. It's like just to go. I know I have like a checklist, and people, because when I first finished my film, a lot of filmmakers, especially in LA, congratulations on finishing. And that was just so weird to me. I'm like, what does that mean? I mean, was I not? I don't understand. But I didn't know how many people actually got out and they will start. I used to work with this guy. They shot like 60 hours worth of stuff. And I'm like, I asked him next year, hey, how's it going? We decided, not to do it. I'm like, what? What? I couldn't comprehend that. So I don't know about the gender thing personally. I think it's more of an artistic thing. I think as a creator, we want what we present to the world to be, the best, I think. And I think it can just be, it's a good part to it, it's a bad side to it, so.
I think one of the things about like being a perfectionist, which I think I'm a perfectionist, but then also a really important thing to know with art as a rule is that, and this is my production company's motto, is show some fucking adaptability. Like you go out to make, like I'm gonna make this movie. I just swore in front of your daughter. Okay, I was trying not to do it. I'm gonna make this movie and this is what it's gonna look like, and then things happen and the movie that you thought in your head is not the movie that comes out, that is shot. You have to open up your brain and let everybody in to help you see what can happen. I mean, I worked on a movie, one of the first movies I worked on, it was a feature film and I did props and stuff, and they had written this outdoor scene, like a picnic scene, and they wanted to be this beautiful sunny day. Well, every day that they scheduled this scene, it rained. And so they put it off for like a year because they wanted this thing. And I'm like, write another scene. Like, don't wait for that. Like, make them have lunch inside. Like, don't do, like, and I've had to, like, we had an actress quit on us on our first feature film. We were driving to the shoot, and this actress called and she's like, I don't want to be in your movie anymore. And we were like, oh, and we had to write a scene on the way to rewrite this scene and put another actor in because she had quit. And that was like, that's when we were like, you know, you have to show adaptability. So perfectionism is one thing. It is a dark thing because if you try so hard to, oh, this is what it's supposed to look like, if you don't let things like create themselves in a way, like you've got to sit back and let the work create itself. And then that's when you've made a big step. That's when you've like made art.
Yeah, let go.
Yeah. You gotta let go.
That's why
Just like
I feel like every writer should direct at least once. Because I think you learn so much about yourself as an artist. Because I mean, I'll tell a story on myself. I think one of the reasons that I have gotten such a late start is that there was a screenplay that I wrote in the early 2000s that I wrote and rewrote and rewrote. I probably wrote 45, 48 drafts of this script rather than move on to another project, partly fear-based, but then I countered that with the last day of filming on my last short, where it was an outdoor scene. It was like this very romantic culmination of the end, and like it was supposed to happen a certain way. There was literally a tornado getting ready to come through. The sky was turning green. The power had gone out downtown. And I was on the phone talking to Mata and racing to scout a location. And I was completely freaked out, but it was so thrilling and exciting to have to navigate all of these challenges and communicate with my crew. And I think about that, and I think about the time that I truly wasted sitting in a room writing draft after draft after draft on this one project because I needed it to be perfect. And then thinking about a scene that I had to write in like 30 seconds to fit that moment. And I grew so much as a person, as a filmmaker that day. And again, I just more regret, like I wish I could have had that experience sooner. But again, I think that's what I would tell every writer, is that don't be afraid of the technical, don't be afraid of perfect. Because it's like that wedding, like you said with wedding days. It's like, you know, everything's like something's gonna go wrong. You try to make it perfect. It's just letting go of that, and it's a lot more fun.
We have a question on this lady.
Well, you guys have really touched on a lot of the issues that I personally am having with. I'm an author that's moved into film writing and film screenwriting, and now attempting to move into filmmaking. But everything you guys said, I'm pretty much like, okay, I can't. I'm like, I have a fear of one. It's a book trying to make it into a movie, and the fans being so. I have a very large fan base, and they're very particular about everything that I write. And as far as, you know, oh, this character doesn't. I did recently a teaser trailer just to see what people would say, and it was, well, Denise isn't supposed to look like that. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know what to do like with that. But then also the aspect of attempting to make a movie on my own, knowing that I may not be able to get the quality that I want out of it, because I don't want to put something. I don't, with other things besides say my book, I wouldn't mind just, you know, getting out there and shooting, as Craig has said to me before, just get out there and shoot. But with the book, my bigger fear is making something. I don't have a problem with low budget, but I have a problem with low quality, and me doing it myself. Would I, being that I don't know how to do this well, you know, is this something I should just give off to someone else, which is where that whole thing of saying, well, maybe I shouldn't shoot it myself, maybe I should, you know, sell it, or, you know, do something of that sort. So I kind of wanted to get your opinions on that as far as, you know, books and film. But then also, have you had issues as women, not just with the filmmaking aspect, but the getting the funding? You know, are people saying, well, you're know, a woman filmmaker, your movie's not going to make any money, so I'm not going to put money into it.
Most times they give
Our next panel.
Oh, okay.
That the whole thing is getting the money.
Oh, okay, yeah. And most times, yeah, they won't tell you that. They won't say it because you don't want it. They just say, you know. Yeah, yeah.
I think that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think what I'm hearing you saying is something that I had trouble with for a while. I was like, oh my God, if I make this, what are people gonna think of me if this looks like this or whatever? That you've got to go into it without any expectations like of what the final product is going to be. You've got to go into it making the movie that you can make. Like don't try to say, well, I don't know if I can make it look like this, so I maybe don't want to do it. Think about a different way to make, like, have it look. Like, make it claymation, or make it, you know, like, make it something that you can do rather than thinking that you can't do it. Like, approach it as, I can do it this way, or I can collaborate with this person and make it look like this, rather than, I mean, the only person that's telling you no is you. Anytime. There's nobody telling you no but you. You've just got to go out and do it. Like, a lot of movies I've made, they cost like no money, because I make a lot of experimental films, and I get like stuff off of archive.org and just make art from that, and I just sit in my room and I make my art, and it's not like, oh, I've got to go get a cinematographer, I've got to do this, and I've got to do this, and I don't know this person. I created my own reality, and I make the movies that I can make, rather than going, I want to make Star Wars. Well, no, I can't make Star Wars. I'm going to make the movies that I make, rather than thinking that there's a place that that you're supposed to be getting to. Create the space that you are in to be that space. Does that make sense?
And also too, that makes perfect sense. Also, you know your audience. You have an audience already. That's the biggest thing. Getting someone to see you. Yeah. You have an audience. So, how did you get that audience? Find out. Keep that audience. Keep with that, and then you go out with that. One girl came to me. She wrote a book. It was a good book. She said, turn this into a play. I see you do good plays, and people will have no audience. I want them to do that for me. Do this for me. I wrote the thing, and I turned it into an awesome play. But she could have did it. That was her baby, she wrote the book. I don't really like writing books. But I like writing. I like to go out and do it. And so I'm not a book writer. I'll write a script and less than 2 or 3 weeks, really. But I won't write a book. It just that don't play for me. So you write a book, that's awesome to me. That to a person who like doing something like, I just like writing screenplays. I like writing plays. I like writing screenplays. I like doing that. I got a little catalog of stuff. But funding is an issue. However, but you have all the tools.
Yeah, if you already have an audience, then you should be the Pied Piper. Like y'all come along with me. You're already here. This is what I'm gonna do.
And
like,
also, Shonda Rhimes, I love what she said. She said she had to take Grey's Anatomy back from the fans. Because, you know, she said for like a couple of years, they were just giving the fans exactly what they wanted, and the quality of it, in her opinion, dwindled down. And personally, I think, you know, one of my favorite movies of all time is The Godfather. And if you go on IMDb, you'll find at least 8,000 ones for the ratings. So everybody, you can put your best foot forward. You can get Steven Spielberg to shadow direct and write your stuff. Somebody is still gonna hate it. You know? So the best thing to do is just go for it. And the people who will support you, they're gonna support you. Yeah, they're gonna support your evolution. They're gonna support your growth. They're gonna support your change. Yeah, so just go for it.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, here's something else for you to chew on. So you have something that a lot of filmmakers don't. You have audience.
Yes.
Filmmakers, a lot of times, you know, especially with the new development of self-distribution, a lot of filmmakers are wanting to build up a fan base and build up, you know, an audience. And something that we did in the past year was we teamed up with some book authors, and because they wanted book trailers, and so we made them free book trailers in exchange for promotion to their fans for our films for the next several years, or a couple projects. So that was a trade that we made, and so you might be able to use that to your advantage if you've already got audience. You might find filmmakers that want to build up their audience and kind of make a trade with them. You know, it's just you got to think about, you know, kind of what you have to offer, and you know, if you feel like you don't want to shoot it yourself, that might be a really great option. So.
Yeah, I think it's all about not thinking about what you don't have. It's thinking about what you do have. Like, don't focus on the negative. Focus on the things that you do have and work with those things.
We've got time for one more question from the audience.
Yeah.
Chris?
I think a lot of what we talked about today centers around, you know, learning a lot of different jobs and all the different aspects of filmmaking. Filmmaking is an art that has a lot of different, you know, the producing, the writing, the directing, and the editing, and sound design and everything. And when we work at our level, everybody has to dip their toes into everything at least. Is there one aspect of it that you found more challenging, or that you learned from while you had to learn? You know, that it was particularly rewarding to learn, or alternately, did you find rewarding the whole process of having to put everything together? Did you learn from that?
Sound was that's what I learned I don't want to work with. I'll just pass that on.
Editing. And I hear you say editing is your dream. I love it, somebody else's dream. I like sitting in the room with them things. I don't know. I want to be out there. You know, I want to talk to the actors. I want to make sure. I love directing. So that's my thing. I would love to hire out. I'll even want to shoot it. I just want to do it and be in control of that and have people coming in and, okay, now you do that, and okay, now bring the camera over here. I love directing. You love editing. And I think that's, thank God for the pieces.
I like knowing how to do it, just in case, because of the things and the challenges out there where people have dropped off.
It is good.
Yeah, I like knowing how. I don't like every aspect of it, but I think every person who gets into it needs to at least learn how to do it.
And you're right, because that's what I was telling my husband. I said, you know, I need to just buckle down and take a class in that, because I did have some issues with the film because of the actual filmmaker. I mean, the actual producer didn't want to do a certain thing. I don't think that's going to work. I said, it is going to work. Yeah, it's going to work, and let's do it. Well, is that significant? Yes, it is. So that challenge made me say, I'm sure I might need to do that. But, and I said, I will take some classes because I think he felt that I didn't know enough to tell him what could work. And I don't want that. So, yeah.
I think
the ignorance.
I think my biggest challenge is directing, like an actor, because I've done all the other things so much. Is when I actually get down to directing, I'm like, can you just like, do it? Like I don't know. I like that communication. I'm like, I'm not really sure what I'm trying to get you to do, but you know what I want, right? You know. And my short that is showing tomorrow morning or tomorrow at noon, my actress like. She had like she knew what I wanted like immediately. Like I was like, thank God, I could just like let her go. Like, can you do the thing, Eileen? Yes. All right.
In closing, what's next?
Oh, what's next?
What's next for you?
Oh, what's next for me? First of all, I have a short tomorrow at 12:30. 2 whole days of nothing but uppercase fuck. I've said it twice in front of your daughter. No, I just finished up some music videos for Frazee Ford, who's a really awesome musician, and she came down to Memphis and recorded at Royal Studios with the Hodges brothers. I just finished that, and I'm about to start editing a feature film for Old School Pictures called Bad Bad Men, and I'm really excited about that.
What's next, DeAara?
Well, we didn't hit goal with Witch Bitch, so we're revisiting that next year. But in the meantime, I am doing audience building. I'm starting a show called One Chick Army, which I talk about all the controversial things I talk about on Facebook, so people can have a better reason to hate me.
Well, I'm finishing up on a few other projects, but for me personally, I'm currently writing a short film that's kind of a Victorian ghost story, so I'll be working on that next.
What about ARV3?
Well, that's one of the ones I'm wrapping up on.
Okay.
What's next?
Okay. I'm wrapping up the Department of Science. Hopefully that will be here next year.
Awesome.
And hopefully next year I'll finally be directing a feature because I'm ready. And also finishing a novel.
Wow. What's next, Mechelle?
Well, like I said, they did doing my screening for Just Measure Faith. That'll be at 1:30. But we just shot my promotional trailer called Why Me? And that's what we hope to be at the next Indie. Yeah.
Let's thank our panelists. Our next panel is at noon, and 11, 12 o'clock, and it is financing your film, how to get money.